So hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hi, thank you, Lisa. My name is Alexa. I'm 27 years old. As noted earlier, I met KJ fairly recently, went to the retreat in Costa Rica.
Hold them up, mic close.
Is this close enough?
Yes. There we go. Yes.
I'm practically making out with it.
Make out with the
Nice.
mic. It's fine.
All right, thank you.
There we go. Yes. Perfect.
Okay, so if I can't hear, just yell at me. I'm fine with that. So yeah, I met some of the lovely ladies here in Costa Rica. I honestly really didn't know anyone before. So as mentioned, it was kind of like a new crowd for me. And that was really exciting because I was born and raised here in San Luis Obispo. I've lived here for almost my entire life. Locals. And I had a really good group of girlfriends in high school, which was amazing, and I was super lucky. And then after that, went to college, came back, and I really never built that up again. I had, friends here and there, but I never felt like I had like a sisterhood or a community. So it was a really beautiful experience to go down to Costa Rica when I was in the middle of my travels, which I'll get to, and meet all of these really phenomenal, lovely, open-hearted women. And just to like see what quote-unquote sisterhood is all about in a more adult context. I never had sisters growing up. I kind of always wanted one, but also kind of didn't because I was like, we'd fight and we'd fucking hate each other. And I knew that because I'm a very opinionated woman. You can ask my mother.
I always thought if I had a sister, she'd be prettier than me, and so
Not possible. Not possible. But yeah, so before I kind of get started and talking a little bit more about what I do and giving my personal life story and opening my heart to everyone here, I just want to provide a little bit of background information just so you guys kind of know where I came from. Not that I think it's super important, but I don't know, it's interesting, and it does kind of lead into how I got to where I am now. So as noted, I was born and raised here, lived here pretty much my whole life, moved to Los Angeles to go to college. I studied Spanish and French, which has nothing to do with what I do now, but it was cool. And when I graduated, I came back here. I started working in the wine world. I worked in personal training and fitness and health, and I always bounced back and forth between jobs that seemed to have to do with wine and culture or health and fitness and wellness. And a lot of people would say those are very conflicting things. In one job, I told people don't drink. In another job, I told people drink as much as you can and pay me money for it. So it was like a very interesting back and forth. But I knew that like these were two really big pieces of my life, and they were two really big pieces of things that I loved and things that brought me joy. And I wanted to find a way to kind of put those things together and, just like see how I could. The word I like to use was, I already lost it, so that's good. But like basically like piecing together the two pieces of me and like integrating those and making that one quote unquote thing. So, one second. Yeah. So I wanted to work on my own. Also, I had always known like I have an entrepreneurial spirit, but I had always been working for other people, which isn't a bad thing. It's really a beautiful thing to be able to build up someone else's dream and help contribute to that and be a part of that. But I always knew that was something I wanted to do for myself, and I had no idea how to do it. And in December of 2020, I kind of had a lot of smack-in-the-face reality checks about where my life was and what was going on and what I actually wanted. And I knew I had wanted to start my own business, and I knew I had wanted to have a focus around health and wellness, and I knew I also wanted to bring a little bit more of culture and life and wine and community and like more of that side to that thing. So I wanted to basically combine all the pieces of Alexa into one big fat piece. And so at the end of December of 2020, I quit my job working for a tech company. I didn't have really anything set up. I had one client at the time and kind of made a deal with God, we'll say, and I just said, you know what, I'm going to surrender to this. I don't feel like I want to be working for someone else right now. I want to work for myself. I have no idea what the fuck this is going to look like. I have no idea how I'm going to make this happen. I have no idea how I'm going to make money, but I know I'm going to trust for 3 months. I'm not going to go looking, and I'm just going to let things flow. I'm just going to see what happens. And that same time, I also knew I had always wanted to travel. I had always wanted to see more of the world and dive into culture in a way that went beyond just wine or languages. And that was something that I wanted to incorporate into my day-to-day and make it possible. And when you work a 9 to 5, it's really hard to just go up and travel sometimes. So December of 2020, I quit my job, and I also set the intention to, by the end of 2021, be living in a different country or a different place and have experienced the opportunity for me to work for myself and go see things that I had always wanted to see. So this entire process, like everything that unfolded after that, was what I would identify as pure magic, and I mean that very wholeheartedly. My life has been extremely magical, but even in the midst of that, and I think a lot of the women here can agree with this, no matter how beautiful your life is or looks, there are still always challenges, there are still always lessons. You can never escape that, it's part of the human condition. And a lot of my work and what I do as a coach, and honestly as a friend, as a mentor, as whatever you want to put a label on me, a partner, anything, a lot of what I have found that I have a good purpose in doing is in that process of learning and growing, learning how to find a deeper level of self-love, and also learning how to find what I call alchemy, or being able to change and shift and grow and accept the radically changing seasons in the world. Because no matter what you do, no matter what path you decide to take, there's going to come a point where something is going to be challenging and something is going to have to change, and you have to learn how to grow with that. So the two cornerstones of what I work on are predominantly self-love and, again, what I define as alchemy. The word alchemy is a little confusing for some people because they're like, you make gold, and no, I don't. I'm definitely not that talented. But the secondary definition of alchemy is a power or process that changes or transforms something in a mysterious or impressive way. It's like the ability to transmute something, and I think we referenced Lisa as a phoenix earlier. Mm-hmm. It's basically the ability to do just that, and to observe this cycle of life and death that we all go through in different ways, whether it's a death of a friend or a loved one, or a death of a piece of yourself, or a death of a piece of your friend. Maybe, there was a point in their life when they were really depressed and they decide they want to come out of that. You have to allow that process to happen. You have to grieve the death of that side of them. So it's become really important for me to understand how to accept myself, accept the world, accept situations as they're coming, and how to give those love enough space so that they can actually grow and transform into something completely different, and that serves our ultimate purpose, which is to just keep growing and changing and progressing. Again, not perfection, but progress. So, to kind of get back a little bit into my story, as noted again, I had known I wanted to start a business. So in 2021, which was last year, I had at this point not had a job for a while. I ended up starting up my own business as a life coach, and that was a pretty sensational opportunity. And I started focusing on self-love, alchemy, and it was really amazing because I had all of these pieces starting to come together and starting to piece together in my world. But when May hit, I still knew that I had a goal of living in a different country, and I was still living in San Luis Obispo as I had been for most of my life. And I got really fucking angry. And there was one day I remember I came home to my apartment, which was lovely. I had my darling cat Luna. It was like a really beautiful setup, and I had worked really hard on it. And I was just pissed because I knew this was not where I was meant to be at this point. I mean, it was, but I knew I wasn't meant to stay there. And I knew that it was meant for me to start doing something radically different. And I realized 5.5 months have passed and I'm still here. And I got fucking mad. And I'm pretty certain everyone here has experienced anger before. Show of hands if you know what that feels like. Okay, cool, good. Thank you. So anger is an example I like to use when I talk about alchemy and emotional alchemy. And a lot of people fear anger, and it's extremely powerful. It roots you to the core. Things come out. Sometimes it's really hard to control it. But the thing about anger is that it is a really powerful change maker. If you look at a lot of uprisings and things, it tends to stem from a place of anger at some point. If it goes long enough, anger will seep up. And the way that I like to view emotions, like anger, is it's there to tell me something. And the more I shove it down, the more I push it away, the more I ignore it, the more I'm ignoring the actual message, which was you're abandoning yourself, you're abandoning something you told yourself you wanted to do because you're afraid. And that's kind of a tough pill to swallow. So I confronted those demons. I accepted and swallowed the pill of, wow, I'm actually really angry with my life and where it is, even though there's been a lot of beauty. I know I need to keep going. And a few weeks later, I bought a one-way ticket to Mexico and started preparing to basically move on this journey that I had no freaking idea where it was going to take me, and I had no one going with me, and I had been in the middle of a breakup at that point, so it was kind of like a big shift, but I was like, I do have a choice, but I really don't, you know? So, I'm sorry, my notes keep clearing. So I had this wonderful evolution of this emotion called anger, and it evolved into something which was action, and the action began to actually take place in my life, and I was able to see things starting to really change and shift. And it was really amazing how when I made that choice, and I made the choice of, okay, well, I've been working as a trainer and I've been working in person, and I set up my whole business to do everything in person, and then 3 months later decided I'm going to take everything online and totally shift what I do. I was afraid that I was never going to have clients and I was never going to make connections, and people just came to me. Like the most magical and weird, like meeting, I don't know, I connected with Honeybee, I think because of a mutual friend, and then somehow she was like, oh, there's this retreat coming up, and I was like, cool, and then I met KJ, and then I met Lisa, and then I just met all of these people as soon as I decided that I wasn't going to just sit and wallow in a state of anger and not do anything about it. So my entire life began to shift. I started traveling. I left in August, on August 3rd, and I had a 46-liter backpack, and that was it. And I had a ticket to Cancun, and I knew a hostel I would be staying in for 3 days, and I didn't know anything beyond that point. Fast forward, in the course of 3 months, I ended up staying in 3 different countries, roughly 11 different cities. I met a ton of people. I had really amazing connections unfold. I found love again, which was amazing. And all of these things just sort of started to flow for me. So, I'm sorry, I'm losing my place again.
You're starry.
I'm sorry.
We say starry.
Oh, that's right.
Sorry.
That's right. So I had all of these shifts happen, and then 3 months into traveling, I ended up basically pseudo moving out to Puerto Rico with my now partner. And I have been there since, up until Christmas time, and came back to the US for the holidays, and I'm here now for this event. So what a lot of people would see when they look at that story is like, wow, this is really amazing. And it was. I will not lie about that. There was a lot of really cool things. But there's also other pieces, and I felt extremely called to share this specific part, especially after conversations with KJ and some of the other girls yesterday, that for a lot of the time that I was in Puerto Rico, I probably, if I had seen someone, would have been diagnosed with depression at that point. And then coming home, I've had extreme bouts of anxiety. And there's a lot of other emotional components that still come with even having the quote-unquote glitz and the glamour of the life that I had always wanted. You still can't escape the emotional pieces that come with it. And to me, that's a very essential part of life, is learning how to just work with that and live with that and know no matter what you do, your external experience is not going to dictate what goes on inside. You dictate what goes on inside. And that's a really big piece of stepping into personal power and stepping into a state of sovereignty, is saying, nothing around me, my partners, my friends, my job, my work, these things are not going to control the way that I perceive my life and the way that I perceive myself. That's something I have to do on my own, inside myself.
Woo!
Thank you.
Amen, sister.
And it was. And so the whole time that I was prepping for this journey and going on this journey, as noted, I had gone through a breakup. I was in a state of really ridiculously, radically looking for the most obnoxious forms of self-love. And self-love became my savior at that point. And I learned that I don't need other people to validate me. Of course, it's a thing that comes from within. And when I decide to open my heart to other people is when it's reflected back to me. And I know this was a very long introduction, but that's over half my speech, so take it for what you will. But what I really want to get at today is heart opening, and I had mentioned that earlier. That was my intention. And that's been something that has been increasingly challenging to do, especially after noting I had a pretty, depressive bout while I was gone, and I've had a lot of anxiety and have had a lot of those emotions that a lot of people look at a life coach and say, well, you should have your shit together. And the truth is, I don't have my shit together. I have a good perspective on how to navigate those things, and I try to share that with people, but it does not make it any less hard or any less difficult. So I was traveling. I had been really, really obsessed with self-love. I had learned a lot about that. And the piece that really, I think, has transformed my life and my relationship to others was when I allowed that self-love to actually transfer to my relationships with other people and my connections with other people. There's a book, I don't know, I'm going to ask for a show of hands if anyone's read Return to Love by Marianne Williamson. Awesome, thanks Lisa. I think there was one or two others back there. Okay, so I'll give a very quick little spoiler. The basic premise of the book is that fear is an illusion and the only real deep truth is love. And that's it. And sometimes it's hard to accept that. And so we create narratives and say, oh, this person doesn't love me, or oh, I don't love myself, and blah, blah, blah. And they're really just distractions from realizing that like love is a real thing and it's pretty much the only thing, and it's really deep and it's really fucking painful and it's hard to look at. So we distract ourselves from understanding that as being a big truth. But a part of what I've learned, predominantly through my relationships, but also through my friendships, is that people are a map that teaches us how to love ourselves. And sometimes we learn how to love ourselves through other people. We see things in them, like creativity, and we realize, I'm also creative. Wow, I love that in them, I can love that in myself. And sometimes it works the other way, where we see things in ourselves like fear, and we're able to recognize that we can't escape fear, and so we see it in someone else, and we say, oh, you also have it. That doesn't make you any less lovable, that makes you a human. And we get to see that every single person has little pieces of us in them, and we all have little pieces of other people in us. And to me, this is what the meaning is of like the ultimate truth of love is all that exists. And while I was traveling, I read this book, and there was one line that stuck out to me as being like the most pervasive and important, and it just fried my brain. And Marianne Williams said in this book, she says, what you withhold will be withheld from you. And that struck me extremely hard because I realized I had spent months cultivating this really deep sense of self-love, which was incredible. And I had shared it here and there, but ultimately I wanted to see that love reflected back. I had asked God, I had prayed, I had said, I'm ready to receive this. And I realized that there were certain people in my life that I knew I loved, that I refused to admit it, and I refused to show it to them because I was afraid I would get hurt again. And I'm certain that most people, if not everyone here, can relate in some kind of capacity. It's hard to open your heart and also know that there's a chance that you will get hurt. But the words, again, they kept sticking into my brain, and it said, what you withhold will be withheld from you. And I decided that if I wanted to experience love from people around me, it does not serve me to hold that into myself and to not share that. So I ended up, and this will get a little bit more into my personal life, but I'll try to keep that short and sweet. I ended up reconnecting with one person in particular who had asked to reconnect with me. We'd had a previous relationship. I had said no thank you, been hurt before, not going down that road. And at the time, no was the right answer. There is, when you guys get your goodie bags, on my business card, there's a question that I like to ask myself, and the question is, what is the most self-loving thing that I can do? And for a time, the most self-loving thing I could do was say no. No, I do not want to reconnect. No, I want to focus on myself. But the point of what I say, alchemy, and learning how to work with shifts and changes, is that there came a point in my life and in my traveling where I realized no was not the answer at that point. The most self-loving thing I could have done at that point was realizing this person has a piece of myself in them, and I'm not allowing myself to love that piece. And maybe I need to open myself up and open up my heart and be able to say that I love that and not expect, anything in return, not expect an outcome, not expect anything, but the ability to actually share with someone that you love them. And so there was this really crazy turn of events that happened after that, and of course we fell in love, and of course that whole thing blossomed into another whole thing. And the whole lesson, though, that really stuck with me is that there are times when it is in service for you to keep yourself guarded and to keep yourself protected, but there are times when it is in service of you to break through those chains and decide that that's not actually what is the best for you at this point. And sometimes it's really hard to decipher what is the right thing and what is the most self-loving thing, and only you get to decide and determine that. I had a whole bit about celiac disease and autoimmune healing in this, but I do want to be respectful of everyone's time, and I think people are kind of hungry. So I'm just going to leave this as a quick little finisher and just something that I thought was really powerful, and I love to have people keep in mind. I was diagnosed with celiac disease when I was in college, Yes. My roommate was there for that. And it was an extremely hard time on my body, but I think a lot of that stemmed from having a poor relationship with myself in high school. And through a lot of my high school years, I did not love myself, and that I attacked myself, and I had self-sabotaging thoughts, etc. And I think that actually began to manifest in my body, and I developed this autoimmune response. When I left to go on this trip and to start traveling, I set an intention, because I believe intention is really powerful. I set an intention and said, I want to heal my gut on this trip. And I don't know how to, I don't know how to make a miraculous miracle happen, but that was my intention. And the day that I read the passage that said, what you withhold will be withheld from you, I got extremely fucking sick. I was ill. Some people would be like, you were in Mexico, of course you got sick. And that's probably fair, and maybe that's the case, but I like to psychoanalyze everything, including myself. So I like to say that I think a big piece of the reason I got sick was I read that passage and I realized I was holding things in that would make me sick if I did not start sharing them and start showing them. And I was deathly ill like a few days later. And the day that I reconnected with this person, and the day that I decided I didn't want to hold back and I didn't want to be afraid, because I knew I loved myself at that point, and whatever their response was could not take that away from me. And when I made that decision, I shit you not, and I'm sorry for my profanity, I'm sorry, Mom. Thank you. I'm sorry. But this is the cold hard truth and also is a pun. After that happened, my gut health was like drastically and immensely healed. I ate things I had never been able to eat before. I ate bread. I had no problems with it. It was crazy. And I think what I've realized is that my body is a vessel that portrays back to me what's going on in my mind and my heart. And for a long time, it was defensive and it was angry and it was closed and it wasn't allowing itself to take things in and digest them and work with them. And a lot of what I've learned in the last year has basically come down to being able to give love and receive love is actually like that was the healer and the healing in and of itself. How am I doing on time?
Wow, we should
Probably, yeah.
You're crushing it though.
Oh, I'm like pretty much done, but I have the poem that I read in Costa Rica, and I don't know if I should share that. Okay, fine.
Read the poem.
Okay.
Okay.
So, for the women here that were in Costa Rica, you have heard this before. I wrote this on our last day there.
I could hear it 8 million times.
Oh, okay. Careful what you wish for. I don't think I'd be able to say it that many times.
More.
But I wrote this, again, as a reflection of the understanding that the things that live in me also live in everyone around me, and I think that's a really beautiful recognition. So, here we go. As I unbecome, I become one. As layers are shred off my shoulders and shed from my skin, my body is renewed, birthed out of who I have been. The unfurling of self is my path to discovery, and I see the beauty of me reflected in all that you are uncovering. For as you show yourself and let your soul be free, I see the quantums in the cosmos that live within me. Seeing the gift of life that is you is a priceless opportunity, not only because it shows me you, but because it shows me me. It makes me want to see and to show myself, to reveal a radiance once left on a shelf. My soul is safe in the hands of those who do not wish to harm her, and so the arms of my sisters become my armor. As I unbecome who I once was, I become one with who I am now. As I unbecome all that I am not, I become one with all that I will be. And as I unbecome, I become one with you.
Oh my gosh.
Thank you. Thank you. So the moral of the story, there is no answer that is always the right answer. But if you ask yourself constantly, what is the most self-loving thing I can do? And you're able to recognize that you is also existing in everyone around you, and they are existing within you, your life becomes a life that is lived for the purpose of love. And when has love ever been a waste of your time? Thank you.